Tapadees and Tiro. Welcome to Marianas Stories. I'm Catherine Perry, and this is where we chat with ordinary people with extraordinary stories in our community. You know, it's not unusual to move even halfway around the world for a job. People do that every day. But to move halfway around the world without a job, based on tuition, I think that's an extraordinary story. And our guest today did just that with her husband, Victoria Sewell. Welcome to Marianas Stories.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So tell us, how did you first hear about the Marianas?
So I was working with an international teacher who was in the States for family health reasons, and she was offered a job at SIS. And we had talked about my own background, living more internationally when I was younger, and about my love of culture and my struggle with my values not aligning as strongly with the culture I was in. And she told me, you should move to Saipan. So when she was here, she decided that yes, there seemed like there was a need for art, and she reached out to me, and 31 days later I had sold everything that we owned and we were on our way.
Well, that's pretty scary. Where did you find the confidence to do something like that? You'd never been here before.
Yes. And at that time, there wasn't a lot of information online about Saipan. I think Wikipedia was about all that I could find.
This is about 2 years ago?
Yeah, in tourist videos that were in other languages. So there wasn't a lot of information. When I arrived, I was like, yay, there's running water, and sometimes it's hot. So I was very excited about that after living in other areas that were a lot less developed.
Okay, so what did you actually expect based on the limited information that you found online at that time before you got here?
I was really drawn to the international element of the islands. It is made of many different types of people. And that's what I was really seeking at the time, so yes.
Yeah, we have like over 20 ethnicities, either in the Marianas or on Saipan alone, which is pretty incredible for the island only being 13 miles long.
Very incredible, yes.
So how was it different, either in a positive way or not so positive way?
I think life is simpler on Saipan, which allows you to slow down and realize what's important. For me, nature is really important. I, as an artist, use it to connect with the world and see what is true and what is not true. And so being somewhere where so much of the island is even not developed, there's so much richness to the nature here and so much history that the land has a lot of power. So I love that about it.
Now, you moved here from where in the U.S.?
I am originally from Texas, but I was living in Mississippi at the time because I'd found an amazing art program there.
And what is it about your upbringing you feel that made this type of move even feasible or imaginable?
Yes. My parents were missionaries growing up, so they made decisions very intuitively and spontaneously. So we had spent my younger years, I lived in 7 other countries for various amounts of time, and I really fell in love with the different cultures there. And then when I was a teenager, they adopted a lot of children, so they always were willing to say yes to any adventure and open door they saw. So I think that really shaped me. And then for me as an artist, I started off being very classically trained. I can draw very hyper-realistically. People mistake it for photos all the time. But I found myself feeling more and more like a printer. So as I pursued different other ways and approaches to art, I discovered more of a process-oriented way where I could discover more about myself through that and what was unique to me. And so art became a way for me to become more self-aware. And as I grew in that, it strengthened my intuition to the point where when I heard about Saipan, I knew inside that was the next step.
We do want to talk more about your artwork because it's such an important part.
Yes.
Number one of your livelihood. Let's start there. So you got here without a job, and then what?
So because of my own experience struggling to find the right path in art and going through different forms of art education to find the right answer for me, I have created my own curriculum around that tries to introduce people a lot earlier to things that I learned in art school and through going to multiple different instructors that I found valuable. So starting off, I was able to actually start with 3 students through Facebook, and from there, through word of mouth, it spread. I began teaching at the Montessori school, Isla Montessori, in the mornings privately, so parents could sign their children up and I could go in and work with them. And I grew a body of students. So that's been an incredible experience, seeing them start to develop their own styles and paths in art.
That's incredible, really. Yes. Could you share with us a little bit more about how intuition works for you? How you, well, I guess it's kind of like natural to all of us, but not everybody necessarily learns to listen to it. Number one, what is intuition in your understanding?
So I believe we're all wired very differently as people, and the more we explore and connect with the world around us, the stronger our understanding becomes of what it is that we connect with. And through following where that strong connection is, we actually find our own paths. So art is a way for people to start to do that in a very physical way that uses all of the 5 senses. They can begin to subconsciously connect. For me, I started with pouring ink into glue and really enjoying that process, which came from my love of watching water and ink combine. I just kept following my intuition. I started breaking glass at one point and doing hot glue with it because of the way it streamed down, and before I knew it, I was drawing the hot glue and then creating these abstract pieces. What was interesting is when I first started, I was in a very dark time in my life, and so my work actually looks very dark and confused and twisted. And then as I myself found peace and release and started following my intuition more and seeing clearly where I wanted to go, you see breath coming into my work as well. There's more and more space that you can see the pieces are starting to breathe. There's a lighter aspect to them. And I think by doing that, just something small where I was just following what I felt I needed to do physically with something as simple as art materials, it helped me in other ways to start follow more strongly bigger choices like moving to Saipan.
So if I understand you correctly, you're kind of saying that going into art is, oh, your dog Poksai is being friendly.
Yes.
With the fishermen.
Poksai.
Poksai, good boy. Good morning.
Hey, stop.
Exploring your artistic side is not just for artists,
yes,
but it's a way for everybody to kind of explore ourselves.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think only by doing that, basically when you explore something, you learn about it, you build a relationship. And an artist is someone who takes only the important elements from that relationship and responds and creates work about that, which is how they develop different styles, different ways of seeing and connecting with the world. And that's what people will then connect with. I think everything around us visually has a power. And that is why something as simple as 2 lines can hold power and meaning for us.
So we met your dog,
Yes.
Poksai.
Yes.
Friendly guy.
Yeah.
And you actually spend a lot of time going around to the beaches in Saipan. Now, is that related to the project you're working on?
Yes. So for me, I actually spend once a week, I take Poksai and we go somewhere on the island and we hike there. I usually like to go really early in the morning at like 4:30. Sometimes.
Oh, so this is not early for you?
No.
Okay.
Because that way I can find the best moments of the sunrise.
Okay.
Sometimes it's at the very beginning, sometimes it's at the end, and you don't really know until you're there.
Oh, interesting.
And so I try to capture that in watercolor as quickly as I can and as authentically as I can. And doing that, I found a really strong growing connection to the land. But as I looked around, I realized that while the islands themselves revolve around the connections in the community, the connection with the land is not as strong as it once was, when that is something that is central to Carolinian and Chamorro identity. That's a huge loss in a time where there's this increased global pressure on the culture. So I'm creating a series of coloring books of the different islands, and part of going out and painting led me to realize that I should do this. So I am gathering research, and I will be teaching Chamorro and Carolinian language, writing some of the legends of each place, locations, and giving people the chance to color and draw no matter where they are in the world.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
If people are interested in seeing your work or contacting you about about your classes or any of these projects, how can they do that? Well, I know you're on Facebook.
Yes. Yeah, I'm
Are
on
you
Facebook.
taking new students at this time? Let's start off with that.
Yes, I
Okay.
can take new students. I'm actually looking
Are you checking
for...
in with your intuition?
I'm looking for a group of interested adults, actually.
Okay.
I would like to do art trips next year to some other islands.
Okay.
And so any interested students who would want to come and learn to paint on location like I've been doing, so then they themselves could go and connect with the islands in a different way. So I'm really hoping next year to plan a trip to the Northern Islands with a group of artists. Yes. Yeah.
What do you feel where do you feel your tuition is leading you next? What's on the horizon for you and your family and Poksai?
I think I'm going to continue to grow my art platform here. I've been selling some of my work recently from all of the studying nature early in the mornings and the coloring book series, and then hopefully taking on more adult students or older students who would be mature enough to do a voyage next year.
Awesome.
So I think my schedule's pretty full.
Yeah.
With all of these projects. Yes. I'm very excited about it.
Well, I've really enjoyed chatting with you today and getting to know how you think. It's kind of unusual and kind of cool.
Yes, it is for sure.
And we're so happy that you did decide to take that leap of faith with your husband and come to Saipan, and that you're flourishing. You really actually seem to be flourishing.
I definitely am. We're in the right place for us.
Anything else you'd like to say before we go?
I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you also for agreeing to sit on the sunny side so that the sun could shine on your face.
I appreciate it.
Well, we've been chatting today with Victoria Sewell, an ordinary person with an extraordinary story in our community. This has been Marianas Stories. I'm Catherine Perry. Thanks, Victoria.
Thank you.